Greetings everyone. Welcome to the first class of the subject Professional Communication. Now for any subject that you're studying in this semester or the semesters hereforth, you will have a certain codes assigned to those subjects. For Professional Communication, the code would be THU 101. Here T would mean theory and HU would mean humanities. So THU 101, the first one in 101 is the first semester. The last one that is there does not have any significance as such, but then it is just a random kind of a number. For first semester, you will have all the codes that end with, mostly all the codes that end with 01. Before starting with the actual subject, let me tell you that what all will we be studying in the subject during the semester. So the first unit that you have in the curriculum is functional grammar. The second one would be vocabulary building. Third would be communication. Fourth will be effective handling of issues. And fifth will be written communication. What all components are there inside these big headers that we will be discovering once we proceed ahead with the slides. So from the next slide onward, I will then be telling you as to for all these big umbrellas, what all components are there under them. Let's go ahead. The first topic of the unit, functional grammar, will have 7 further components added to it. The first component that we'll be discussing here is the parts of speech. So here under the parts of speech, we'll discuss all 8 parts of speech: noun, pronoun, verb, adjective, adverb, prepositions, conjunction, and interjection. Of all these 8 parts of speech, the first thing that we will be discussing is why only 8 of these things are known as parts of speech, why any other component of the English language is not put under the parts of speech. What exactly parts of speech means, what are parts in the speech, what is exactly a speech, and then going ahead with why only these 8. So all those things will be discussed here in the parts of speech. The second topic that we'll be discussing in this unit is the different form of verbs. So different form of verbs will be transitional verbs and intransitional verbs. Transitional verbs will be the verbs wherein the action that is being performed, it gets transferred from the subject to the object. And likewise, intransitional verbs will be wherein the subject is not, the verb, the action is not getting transferred from one place to another. And then we'll also discuss modals here. Modals would be the verbs that express a certain kind of a feeling, a gesture. For example, if you want to invite somebody in a party that you're trying to throw, you would say, either you can say that, okay, please come to the party, right? The other way around that you can say is that please do come to the party. So whenever you add that extra word do, it means you're putting more emphasis so that the person to whom you're giving the invite to also feels that, okay, maybe his presence or her presence is desired, right? So this kind of expressive verbs that we have are kept under modals. Also, in this different form of verbs, we'll be discussing the 3 form of verbs: the present form, participle form, and present participle form of verbs. After this, we'll be dealing with identification of tenses, wherein we'll be discussing the 3 broad categories of tenses: the past, present, and future. And under each big category, all 4 kinds of tenses. So in total, we'll have like 12 tenses that we'll be studying here in the identification of tenses. How do we identify them? What exactly does the word tense means? And that is how the moment you know that, okay, tense means time, you know that where exactly do you need to put which tense. After that, we'll be discussing the formation of sentences using different form of tenses. So here, what we'll be discussing is the usage of tense in a sentence. 2, we'll also be discussing as to for which all tenses is the active formation of sentences possible and for which all sentences is passive possible. And then we'll be discussing the usage of parts of speech. Now that we are clear with what is parts of speech, all 8 components under it, and the form of verbs and tenses, we'll be in a fair position to make or to use these parts of speech in sentences or in random speech. So here we'll be discussing the usage of these parts of speech while we are putting them in a certain sentence or in a certain speech. Once we are thorough with the part of speech, with the verbs and with the tenses, then we'll try to do the sentences. We'll try to spot the errors in the sentences. So here you'll be given a sentence which will not have the correct usage of parts of speech, and then you will have to identify what part or component of the sentence is incorrect. Also, you will have to identify what part of speech are we using there in that particular sentence. Once we are done with all these preliminary topics, then we'll be shifting to the very important topic of English communication, which will help you in enhancing your speaking skills and writing skills. And the topic is Concord. Concord, the other name of Concord is the subject verb agreement. Here, what we'll try to do is we will try to study that how you're using a subject in a sentence, and with that subject, what kind of a verb, a pronoun, or maybe a tense will be used. So what all verbs, pronouns, and tenses gel up well with a certain kind of subject. The kind of subject here means whether the subject is a singular subject or a plural subject. So depending upon the singularity or plurality of the subject that you have, you will be deciding what verb or tense, or for that matter a pronoun, has to be used. So Concord will be one of the most important topics as you advance into your engineering, or for that matter any kind of academic courses. This will be the end of the first unit, which is functional grammar. The next topic of the syllabus is vocabulary building. Now, as you all know, that vocabulary happens to be an essential part of communication. Whichever language you're communicating in, if you're well aware and well versed with good and sound vocabulary, you will feel confident while you're communicating. On the contrary, at times we feel that we know what is to be spoken, but then we fall short of words. So just to avoid that falling short of words, we'll be in this particular chapter studying different kind of words and their usage, of course. So here the first topic that we'll be discussing is one word substitution. You will be given a group of words, and those words can easily be represented using a single word. So that is what is meant by one word substitution. For example, a person who's keen in learning is known as what? So a person who's keen in learning, one word for that particular group of words will be a student or maybe a scholar. Likewise, a person who writes using both hands, known as ambidextrous. So likewise, we will be discussing a lot many such group of words which can be expressed using a single word. Why is it important to use one single word for a group of sentence is that whenever we talk of effective communication, we say that while we are communicating, we need to know and understand the importance of time for both the parties involved in the communication, for you as well as the person with whom you're communicating. So now if you keep using a lot of words to express a simple thing, you're wasting your time and you're wasting the time of the listener also. Therefore, it is advised and suggested that we should always go ahead with using minimalistic words for expressing a lot of information. Right? This is what is known as economy of words in communication. So economy of words will be that you invest a little amount but you have a lot of returns, right? So you're using a very less number of words to express a lot of things. So that is one word substitution. The second topic under this vocabulary building will be synonyms, and the third will be antonyms. Synonyms will be the same meaning words, antonyms will be the different opposite meaning words. So why is it essential to learn the synonyms and antonyms is that you should be aware that for one particular word we have different other words that can be used, so that one, you don't fall short of words ever. At least you remember every time that okay, this particular word has these many uh, meanings to it, or these many words represent the same meaning, so you will never fall short of words. Second, if you are in a certain platform wherein the person wishes to check as to what is your vocabulary bank, in that case these synonyms and antonyms, they will be handy for you. That is why we are including synonyms and antonyms under this vocabulary building unit. The next part of this particular topic, vocabulary building, is homonyms. Now, homonyms mean two or more than two words that have same spelling or may have same pronunciation, but they have different meanings. To explain it better, I'll take on an example. For example, CHECK, check, is to correct something or tick something. It could be either. Checklist we have, right? So we keep checking what all components have been covered. We keep checking that. So that's a checklist. It has a different meaning here. And if you have done certain assignment and you come up to me or to any other faculty and say, ma'am, please check this. So there the meaning differs. It is to read what has been written and then maybe infer that whether is it correct or not. Third way around when we can project the same pronunciation is CHEQUE, which is a check that while making any transactions we can use. So such words that may have same spelling or may have different or may have same pronunciation but have different meanings are termed as homonyms. To give you another example, accept and accept. So accept, ACCEPT, would be you are agreeing to something. Except means EXCPT means excluding a certain component. So that is how we are trying to say that they may have same spelling or pronunciation but different meanings. Next topic under this vocabulary building is avoiding Indianism in usage of English language. What does this mean? I will give you a very short example to this so that listening to that example, it is clear what this Indianism here means. He married his daughter. He married his daughter. The first time if somebody says this sentence to you, what exact thought comes to your mind? That there is a person who married his own daughter. So that is what is Indian usage of English language, Indianism. What we Indians do is, no offense meant to any Indian, but then it is in general been found that Indians, as per their convenience, they mold the words and use those words in the sentences. So he married his daughter. The correct way of putting it across to a certain person is that he got his daughter married. उसने अपनी बेटी की शादी कराई. He got his daughter married. Wherein if you just put it as he married his daughter means उसने अपनी बेटी से शादी कर ली, which does not have any kind of significance or meaning which is a correct meaning. So this is what is Indianism. As per our convenience, the usage of words of the English language while communicating specifically restricted to India is known as Indianism. So we need to avoid this Indianism. For example, another example of it. We usually say that if there's somebody who's sitting in front, in the co-passenger seat of a car, maybe the driver would say that please go to the back seat and sit. Suppose. Now this back, the word back means the back portion of a certain human body. It does not mean the way we are projecting is it. So if at all I need to say or I need to ask somebody who's sitting at the co-passenger seat that you need to go and sit somewhere else, which is behind me, it would be at the rear seat and not the back seat. So likewise, there are a lot many examples that this Indianism covers. We need to avoid such things so that our English is fluent and is effective as well. The next topic is communication, wherein we'll be discussing three different aspects of it. The first would be the general introduction to communication, wherein for this particular semester we only will be discussing the non-verbal aspects. Now what exactly is a non-verbal component of communication and what is verbal? Verbal means we are using words either orally or in written means to express what we have to communicate. So that is verbal. Verbal means that includes words. Non-verbal means it will never use any word to express. Whatever I mean to communicate, I will be using certain different means to communicate and not just words. For example, suppose there's a class going on. The scheduled time was 9 and there's a person who enters at 9:15. The one way I can allow that person is come in. It is just notice the tone that I'm using. Come in. So it is a normal tone wherein the person who's coming late would never get a hint that okay, the teacher is not very happy with that coming late of that person. But the moment I say come in would mean now I have changed my tone from a subtle tone to a bit aggressive one. The moment I change my tone, the person who is entering late knows that that kind of behavior attitude is not a welcome, so that gives a meaning to the person. I'm using words, but the words are the same, the way I'm projecting the words is different. So that way in which we are putting the words across to a certain person defines the non-verbal aspects. Under this non-verbal aspects, we'll be discussing three main components: paralanguage, which is how we say what we say. For example, shut up and shut up. Come in, come in. So these kind of tone change is known as paralanguage. It has further different kind of components that are there under this paralanguage. We'll discuss this in detail as and when we come to the communication chapter. And then we have proxemics. Proxemics has everything to do with proximity, nearness. So proxemics, you suppose you've gone to a certain party. There are certain people with whom you're standing very close and talking, and there are certain people who are standing very far and you're just nodding your head to wish them. You're not going up to them and wish them and chit chat with them. So this distance that you're maintaining with the person with whom you're making a communication defines your relationship with that person. For example, another very simple kind of an example to explain what proxemics is. Suppose you went somewhere out and your father told you that okay, you please come by 5, we need to go somewhere and this is really urgent. Now you had gone out with your friends, you forgot that your dad had asked you to come back by 5. You're entering home at 6. The moment you enter, that awkward weird silence that is there in the room where your dad is sitting, that silence will tell you that okay, now you will recall that oh my god, you had to come at 5 and you're entering at 6, means now there'll be a trouble that you've landed yourself into. Now tell me, where will you sit? Ideally, suppose, and I'll give you another example and then we'll correlate the two examples. Now suppose your father announces one morning that okay, let's buy a new car and let's discuss which car will we be buying. Where will you sit? Now this where decides the proxemics. For a certain topic that you're discussing, or for that particular time wherein you're making communication, if your relations with the person are amicable, both the parties are in good kind of mood, you'll be sitting close. So while for discussing which car to be bought, you will be sitting very close to your dad and discussing, okay dad, let's buy this and not that. The moment you've entered late and you were expected to be here a bit before the time you've entered, you will dare not sit very close to your dad, because you never know from where which side that flying slap will come and land on your cheeks. So this particular distance that you're maintaining while making a communication is what proxemics is. So proxemics has everything to do with nearness, and nearness with respect to the receiver of the communication. Third component of nonverbal aspect that we'll be discussing is the body language. Body language is two components added to it: posture and gesture. Posture means you're utilizing your entire body in communicating. So for example, suppose there is a faculty who's teaching and you're there physically present in the class, and that faculty is leaning very casually on the wall in front of you and then teaching. What kind of impression would be created in your minds of that faculty? The first thing that you will think is a very casual kind of faculty, and from the next day onward you also will be very casual in the class. But the moment the faculty is using appropriate body language, very erect, and then in a very commanding kind of a voice is interacting with you, you will not even try to misbehave with that faculty. So that is what is body language. Posture, you're utilizing your entire body, all the components of your body, your hands, your feet, that means the extremities of your body, to communicate. And it also, for example, this means that posture will include you your standing position. It will also include the way you sit. If you're sitting very straight while there is any discussion going on, which is an informal kind of a discussion, the person who had started the discussion would feel that you're not very interested, and that is why you were not inclined towards the person. So in order to show that you're interested in a certain communication, you sit inclined. But when you're sitting in a class, you can either sit erect, which would mean that you're very attentive, or you can be inclined, a bit inclined towards the speaker, which again would mean that you're interested in what the communicator has to communicate. And third, the way you're lying down, that also will decide or will give a cue or a hint to the person who's observing you, that what kind of a energy level maybe you have at that point of time when you're lying on the bed. So this is posture, wherein you're employing entire body of yours to communicate some meaning. Gestures here would mean the use of hand. How are you using your hand to communicate things will be, without using certain words, will be gesture. For example, somebody knocks at the door, the class had to start at 9, somebody knocks at 9:15. I'm inside the class teaching. The moment the door opens and the person asks for permission, I'll just show my palm, which would mean that stop, you're not allowed to enter. The moment I just wave my fingers towards inside, looking at that person, this person will definitely get an idea that, okay, I want him to enter. And without uttering a single word that whether the person can come in or remain outside, I have communicated what I had to say. So using your hands, you have communicated the meaning, or whatever you had in your mind, you have communicated without using words. For example, for an audience that is a Hindi speaking audience, the people who are sitting across, they do not know English at all. To them, if you show your thumb, what will be they thinking? They will think that, okay, they're not getting anything. Thenga, we call it in Hindi. But the moment you are sitting or you're standing in front of an audience who is an English speaking audience, the moment you show your thumb would mean that, okay, it's perfect, or maybe good luck. So your gestures, the way you are using your hands to communicate, that has a certain meaning, and that meaning gets conveyed by whenever you use your hands while you are in a communication with some party. Therefore, these are the topics that we'll be discussing under non-verbal aspects of communication. The second topic under communication will be the etiquette of telephone conversation. Etiquette of telephone conversation would mean telephone conversation can be done in three ways: making calls, receiving calls, and taking the messages. What exactly do we need to do while we're making a call, while receiving a call, or while we're taking messages for somebody, on behalf of somebody, that will be dealt with while we're discussing etiquette of telephonic conversation. The third and the last topic that we'll be doing under communication will be role plays. Now this is going to be a very kind of interactive and interesting topic, wherein individual or in teams you will be enacting and presenting your views on a certain topic that I give you. So this will be, in general, the topics that we'll be discussing under the unit communication. The next unit is effective handling of issues. At times we feel that there are certain things that we wanted to do, but they do not happen the way we wanted them to happen. For example, suppose you ordered a mobile phone. You were very excited for the day it had to arrive. It arrived on time. The moment you opened the box, the screen was tempered with, it is broken. Now all your excitement vanishes and you're very angry. You pick up your phone and you are very rude while you're communicating to that customer care officer or executive, and you're complaining and cribbing about the product that they've sent you. The way he or she handles your issues is what is known as effective handling of issues. The moment you are rude, the other party should never be rude. It has to be dealt with very politely. The person has to first apologize that, okay, maybe this is our mistake that you have received tempered with product, and then you will have to find out a convergence to the problem, that how can you solve the problem. Either you replace the product or you reimburse the amount. You can have different kind of measures using which whosoever got aggrieved with the presentation of the product or with the condition that the product has reached the customer, you need to put that subtly into an area wherein the customer is no more irritated and angry at you. So this is how, and this is what is known as effective handling of issues. Under this, we'll be discussing three things: use of small talks. Small talks are not the choti baat in Hindi. It does not mean that we are talking cheap. It means that you are using small sentences, and very frequently you're shifting your focus from one kind of topic to another kind of topic while we are making any communication with a person we are not very well acquainted with. For example, you're going by train, there is a person sitting across, you don't know that person, you're getting bored, no mobile phone with you, maybe the mobile phone that you had has run out of battery and there is no charging point, you don't have any books to read, you don't have any other person to talk to, you don't have any means to pass your time while you are on board a train. What will you do? You will try to strike a communication with the person who's sitting across. Now, the important things that you will have to keep in mind while you're making small talk is that the topics that you choose have to be the topic that are not offensive. The very first thing, you will never ask that, okay, who all are there in your family? Maybe there is nobody in the family, maybe he's an orphan, maybe he just got split with his wife or his children and you've hit the wrong string. So small talk, you will only discuss things that are not offensive. For example, the weather. For example, which part of the country you're traveling through to. For example, uh, anything that would be a normal random topic and not a topic which would ignite a kind of argument. You will never discuss politics, because if you are a certain X party supporter, that does not mean that the other person also is a supporter of that party. If you are appreciating a certain party, it could be that the person dislikes that party like anything and he or she has felt offensive about the party that you're criticizing. So small talks will always cover the topics that are very general in nature, generic in nature, and they will be such topics that will never be landing into arguments. Small talk, again, it is a switching of talk from one topic, one small topic handled for a very small time, to another topic. So that is why we call it small talk. Then the second topic under effective handling of issues will be giving and receiving feedback. The way I am teaching, you will give me a feedback, ma'am. Did you will say that, ma'am, I understood, or I did not understand the things that you were trying to say. So if you're saying that, ma'am, I understood, I have got my feedback, that okay, I'm going good, I should go ahead with the same pace and using the same kind of examples. The moment you say that, okay, ma'am, I did not understand a single thing that you were trying to say during the entire presentation, would make me know that, okay, now I need to change my pedagogy. Now I need to change the examples that I'm giving, and now I need to change the way I'm putting across the things, because the way I'm employing or utilizing right now, it not comprehensible by it is not being comprehended well by the listener. So this is what we mean by giving and receiving feedback. Feedbacks here can be of two kinds: a positive feedback, which also is known as constructive, and the negative feedback, which also is known as destructive. So constructive feedback will be that even if it is a negative remark, the person who's giving that kind of feedback does not mean you any harm. If you say that you're not teaching well, it's a negative remark, negative feedback that you're giving, but I need to take it in a positive way, because I know as a student you would never mean any harm to me. So I will take it, if I take it as a positive thing, means I will try to improve upon my skills and try to give you some better kind of information, or some better means of giving the information that I was giving. So constructive would mean that either it can be a positive remark or a negative remark, but the intention behind giving that negative remark is positive. On the contrary, negative remark would mean, again, it could be positive or negative, but both ways it will, the intention behind putting that feedback is a negative intention. Third that we'll be discussing here is handling complaints effectively, which was in a way the example that I gave you while we started with this slide. So whatever complaints that a person is making, you need to try to solve the issues and take the complaints in a very sporting way and not be rude to the person. You don't have to employ the same tone that the person has while the person is cribbing about something, complaining about something. The last unit of the professional communication will be written communication. Now for the written communication will involve words. You're writing and communicating. Now written communication could be formal and informal. You're writing a letter to your mom is informal. You don't have to rehearse or practice what will you write or speak to while you're conversating through phone. So that kind of information that you're floating across, that does not want you to rehearse well before making that communication, is an informal communication. You can use any words that you wish to use. Vocabulary is not a constraint here. The moment you are into a formal communication, now we have a lot of constraints in the vocabulary. You can't just use any random word. It has to be a professional or official or business sounding word. You can't just say hey, hello, guys, this, that. Any formal platform that we are in, it has to be a formal kind of a greeting, and formal language and vocabulary you will be using while you are striking any formal communication. Now written communication will be only focusing on using words while writing to express what we have in our minds. Under this, we'll be discussing three topics: memo, that is memorandum writing, notice or report writing, and agenda and minutes of the meeting. Now memorandum is a very short and small communication that you're making through writing, wherein you are giving a certain information. For example, if there is a student who's coming late every day, I will issue, as a faculty, I will issue a memorandum to that person saying that, okay, you've been coming late and there's a warning that I'm trying to give you through this written communication. That's a memo. Some new person joins in, or maybe there's a new faculty who has joined in the middle of the semester and will be then teaching you in lieu of some other faculty who was teaching till that time. Again, you will be given a memo, a memorandum, informing that, okay, there is a faculty who has joined new. So likewise, memorandum will be a very short, small message which is written to communicate the information in an as precise way as possible. The second thing that we'll be doing here is notice, which will be catering to a lot of people at a common time. Report writing, any events that have occurred and now you are writing about the event to let your audience know that what all happened and in whichever fashion it happened. All the things that were real time, that point of time, and you're now narrating it to somebody, will be put as report writing. Agenda of the meeting would be the reason why the meeting is being called. Minutes of the meeting will be that the meeting has ended and now you wish to communicate to the audience of that meeting that what all important things were discussed during that meeting. So this will be agenda and minutes. We've put under these topics under written communication, under professional communication. So that will give you a hint that every such topic that we cover under any kind of written communication or oral communication for that matter will have a specific format. You will not be going beyond that format. The moment you go beyond that format, you are no more into a formal communication. So it has to be a very formal kind of communication. How will you make a communication that is formal? One, it has to have a format. Also, there's a lot of practice that gets involved. If you're writing something, you need to search for a lot of data to make that content that you're doing, right? So all these things comprise professional communication, THU 101. As and when we go to the further semesters, we'll be going towards the advanced level of every subject that you're studying. Hope you have understood each and everything. We will be discussing any queries that you have in any of the presentations that are shared with you. There'll be, during the week, there'll be one lecture that will only be a query handling lecture, wherein whatever doubts you have in any of the topics that have been already floated across to you during the week will be discussed by your respective faculty. Thank you so much. Have a good day ahead.